His eye are fled, the ghoul next door. Hello, Miss Pekka and Sazai are fled, the ghoul next door, and today we are talking about the 1995 Canadian classic Blood and Donut. Okay, so it's got quite a cast of characters. Starting with our vampire Boya. He has decided it's 1960s. We've just had the lunar landing, and Boya decides that he is sick and tired of humanity and what's been happening, how he's kind of interacted with the people so far in that era, that decade. So he decides to take himself out of the equation by going to sleep. Just curls up in a body bag and in a basement and goes to sleep. He has left the last woman that he had a relationship with. He has left her kind of distraught and clueless as to what to do next with herself. Fast forward to the 1990s, and a golf ball comes crashing into the window, kind of knocking over his very well-placed body bag hammock and wakes him up. A powerful vampire is woken up by a little itty-bitty golf ball. So you know right off the bat it's going to be a comedy of sorts. Boya then finds himself in 1990s Toronto, kind of lost and desperately needing blood. He goes outside, discovers how different everything has become, gets into a cab, and we're introduced to the character of Earl. Earl would become, as the story progresses, first Boya's chauffeur and then his best friend. Earl is trying to hide from the mob. The mob is after him for some reason. I don't remember what. The mob is after him, and he's just basically had a run-in with them where he got beat up and everything. So, and I should say, the mob boss is played by legendary David Cronenberg, who hangs out in a bowling alley of all places, talking about philosophy. So Earl, who is hiding from the mob, picks up Boya and takes Boya to Earl's favorite donut shop, because Earl actually has a crush on the waitress Molly. Molly ends up getting into a bit of a relationship, if you want to call it that, with Boya. But in a sense, so does Earl. Earl ends up moving in with Boya, and Boya ends up becoming Earl's bodyguard. There's this scene where Boya is in the tub and he cuts himself, and as he's drinking his own blood, he creates this psychic bond with Molly, who, the other end of the city, is having this incredible erotic dream. And she starts to wonder what's going on with Earl. With Boya. Meanwhile, Earl walks in on Boya and sees all these dead pigeons everywhere and blood all over Boya's face, and he puts two and two together and he realizes, oh my god, you're a vampire. They're real. It's real. So while all this is happening, the woman that Boya had last seen in the 1960s, because they still share a psychic connection, she realizes that Boya has woken up, and she goes in search of him. She starts hunting Toronto for him. She wants to be a vampire. She wants to stop aging and live forever. She's kind of upset with Boya for making that promise to her years and years before and then not following through. They end up having a confrontation in the middle of a graveyard, of all places. Because it's a vampire movie, you gotta get the graveyard in there. Everything ends up coming to a bit of a head when the mob tracks Earl down and Boya gets into a physical altercation with the mob, and then Boya decides to sacrifice himself for Earl. This is a classic buddy comedy. There is a bit of a romance going on here, but not the way you would think. It's not a straight up romantic relationship. You have this very entwined friendship that at moments feels like a typical vampire let me possess you type of story, and other moments where it's so innocent. There's just this innocent, almost high school friendship going on here. Now, at the beginning of this movie, none of the characters seem to have any self-worth. They're all turning to external places to find validation. But by the time we get to the credits and all the remaining characters, because a couple of them don't make it through the movie, everyone seems to find that missing self-esteem. They've all kind of accepted who they are, where they are in life, where they're going in life, and they're okay with it. So the big kind of what I got out of this moral was about connections and how we perceive ourselves in the eyes of the middle-aged woman. When she does have her confrontation with Boya, she makes a point of saying how had she not been pretty, things would have been harder for her. That she went looking for him in places where, like, seeing his face in the crowd type of situation, and having strange men come up to her and proposition her, and she kept saying, because of her behavior, she drew this to her. And had she not looked the way she looked, it would have been harder to deal with. So she's putting all her self-worth on her looks and her age. The mob characters, they put all of their self-worth into their manipulation and their control over everyone in their neighborhood. For Earl, his self-esteem kind of comes when Molly admits that she cares for him, and when Boya kind of admits that he cares. There's this great scene at the end, after the credits have rolled, where one of our mob characters and our middle-aged character, they bump into each other at a diner, talking, and he goes, well, I've had a hell of a night, and she's like, so have I, let me tell you about it. And they start kind of swapping stories, not even realizing at that moment that they're talking about some of the same people. And it just goes to show that everyone is connected and everything is connected, and in time everything comes back around. Even when you don't really think about it. You are, just by the smallest choice you make, affecting the next 10 people. That's it for this time. I'm Martha Blood, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Come back often. Leave me some love. Leave me some comments. Creeping screams.